like to call our special meeting of our Municipal Board of Ethics to order. Would you call a roll call, please?
Ted Carlson.
Here.
Terrence Kelly.
Here.
David Nesbitt.
Here.
Keith Silver.
Here.
Steve Strom.
Here.
And we also have with us Dee Ennis, Deputy Municipal Attorney, and Linda Richardson, Administrative Hearing Officer.
So, do we have a motion for approval of the agenda?
So moved.
It was under your tab.
Second.
Moved, seconded. Any opposed? Those minutes are approved, or the agenda's approved. How about minutes of the previous meeting? Are they, I actually haven't.
Now, I thought this meeting was was this a
Right.
continuation of the last meeting?
No, it was not.
Oh, no, this is a special.
So
This
this
is
is
a
a
special
special
meeting.
call meeting.
So there might be minutes from the last one, but
Yeah.
So,
I don't
There
see
are
any.
minutes in here,
Move
There
to
are?
approve.
No, they're not.
Where are the minutes?
right here. Well, that's the agenda,
Says.
so we don't have minutes.
No.
Oh,
We
okay.
shouldn't, cause it's only.
No, because
All
we're
right,
gonna
well
do that
then,
next time.
we're moving on to the next thing. Do we have any appearance requests? No. Special orders of business executive session at this point that I'm aware of. So on to unfinished business with the number A1, the municipal code revision that Dee and Vice Chair, they've been working on.
And could I start it?
Sure.
Okay.
Jump right in there, Dee.
This arose, of course, from all our discussions with the, with ASD, and there was some discussion of just revising the ASD rules and treating them separately. What I found is as I was going, oh, let's get this gift section cleaned up, and don't, most of the same things really apply to the ASD. So I think we can treat them differently, but it wasn't my goal to create yet a fourth category. You know, we already have the 3 sections, mayor interwoven, let's not create a fourth. So I thought, number one, let's just clean this up all together. I wanted, now, this is me, the items listed in section 2, but there's certain things that I think, why are we bothering with the value of a plaque or a commemorative gift? Why are we doing that?
Yeah, I thought that whole discussion with the school board, that was kind of ridiculous personally.
Mhm.
If somebody goes out of board and gives, I mean, 'cause what value is it to the person who receives it?
Mhm. And then some things like a homemade or crafted item, well, of course, those could be something very valuable, but that's gonna be relatively rare. Do we really wanna write our rules with that type of occasional gift in mind versus let's get and these are the ones I identified and have all of you look at these, let's get these everyday type of things that I don't find a problem with out of this gift review. And I know, Ted, you had said item A, though, you
Right.
think subsumes the rule, and I can understand that, that came from the code. Item A, Steve, was items given to the employee but that are not connected with the recipient's status as a municipal employee.
What was the purpose of that?
Well, I think it was just sort of, it goes without saying, it was part
Right.
of the old other code, that if
Right.
you're getting a gift from your brother-in-law, that would,
Right.
and that's not counted anyway, so why
Right.
say it and confuse it?
Right,
Yeah.
So I
why
think
even,
Ted would-
why even introduce that,
Yeah.
that idea?
So my suggestion is one that we go through some of these, make sure that the board agrees that these are things that really, why in the world are we even counting as a gift? But when Linda and I asked Linda to sort of take a quick look at this too, we were sort of looking at this, and both of us sort of, or I did, and I think Linda agreed with me, came up with, you know, I'm a deputy municipal attorney, someone's gonna give me a gift of $50, and that's okay? Really? Are we really sanctioning gifts to municipal employees of 50, even if they're $25? Why am I giving you, land enforcement officer, a gift for $25? Now, if it's food, it's already covered. If it's a plaque, that's already in here, that kind of nice stuff, civil. So why in the world, why are we agreeing? And this is the old code.
Does
Why
that
in the world
happen?
are we?
Does the land?
I don't know. I mean,
Well, if it does, it probably should.
yeah,
It
I don't
probably
know.
isn't
Why are we
reported.
doing that?
Yeah, well, it's not
Right.
reported, so we don't know if it's
That's right.
happening or
Yeah.
not.
Now, the police department has a 0.
Their own policy.
You can't.
Which,
you
by
can't
the way,
accept
they're
it.
now changing, but I don't know what it says it's gonna
Yeah.
say. It's gonna loosen that up a little bit. I think it's meant for the cultural stuff and food
Right.
and.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just thought, why are we doing this $50 presumption at all? That, if it falls within one of these other things, fine, if it doesn't, then go to the ethics board, can you accept it? You know,
I personally have had, people don't drop extra money on my desk because I'm helping them out and doing their job. It's part of the reason I'm doing it, and with the reception, and the concern that I guess I have is, why is it within the culture of the teaching profession that they're allowed to do that?
I
I mean,
personally,
you
as
like
a
to do it
parent,
yourself as a parent, but why
because
is
I
it acceptable?
I assume that they're throwing in money for supplies, that's just sort of common knowledge, and so it's based on that presumption.
Because
There's also, I think, an assumption that teachers, for the amount of work they do, are not really paid for the degree of education they have to obtain for their job.
Yes, but my argument to that is every one of those
Increase
people
their
at least
value.
have a degree. They
Yeah.
knew what the payroll scale was when they took that job. But that's a whole different argument about something else, but
Yeah.
it,
I guess for me, it's,
Yeah, and as a
I
professor-
hand off my kid to his teachers. There's no more valuable thing in my life than my son. And good teachers who help him learn, to me, there's almost, there's no amount of gratitude that I could show that makes up
Right,
for what,
but do you feel that you giving them money is gonna improve that?
Well, it's not necessarily, I think for a lot of parents like me, it's a question of just showing gratitude.
Right.
That they
Yeah,
do
I
such a
don't know.
great job. It, to me, is what the single most important professional that I rely on in my life. Now, again, I'm against giving for conflict of interest type reasons.
Right.
I'm against, because I think that's the problem, is that when I show my gratitude, it can be very heartfelt that I'm just showing my gratitude. So I give you
Well, I think
$1,000
these are the
airline
same thing.
tickets.
Mhm.
But the
Yeah.
problem is, maybe most of the parents in my kids' class can't show gratitude at that kind of monetary level. And we just know from social psychology that you do wind up creating impressions upon people that do affect their judgments when you give them things at that kind
which is
of
why
value.
my sister, who just retired as a teacher, said the best gift she ever got, because we discussed this, was a handwritten note and a card. Because it was more appreciated by her than, okay, well, this gift card to a restaurant or whatever.
Well, I give out pies. So I
Right,
give-
that's
I
a-
make
that's a
pies, it's
consumable
holidays,
item,
it's
is-
it's homemade, here goes
Yeah, so
homemade
that's
pie,
consumable,
a little bit,
handmade
it took me a
item.
few hours to make it, so in some sense, like, there's a lot of me in this, but I mean, I wash my hands, so I don't, in that sense, but I know you were thinking. But, Dee, about that issue, I wonder, in terms of the principle at work, what I would like to see is 3A changed
Yeah,
so that the language in 3A is the same as in
Our
0208.
our
It
current code?
probably should be
I
in
got
our
a
current
current
code.
code.
It probably, to be honest, it probably should be consistent language anyway. As you know, I like the language in 0208
Okay,
better.
Let's do this, okay, so 25,
0208, that's.
are you just
Oh.
looking at the current code?
Yes, current code, it's on page 5.
Accept a gift from an individual or an entity with interests that may be substantially affected by the performance of the person's official municipal duties under circumstances where the timing and nature of the gift would cause a reasonable person to question the person's judgment exercising official municipal duties on a matter affecting the donor.
Keith, could you, so it's 1, 2, 5.
It's actually behind the 025.
Oh, you gotta keep going, yeah, it's in the 025 tab, even
Yeah,
though.
it's actually because.
So it's
we're on
page
the
5,
tab.
page,
So
if
go
you
back,
look up at the
go
top
back to the
right corner.
025 tab,
Okay, that's where I'm at, 025 tab.
and it's in the first page of that. Page 5 of 34.
You're looking at it right there.
Yeah, it's right there, it's 8 on top there.
Okay. Oh, is this, okay, now. I'm
This
really
is forbidden
confused.
conduct for everyone. It's in that first section.
Oh, it's in the
prohibited
general
conduct.
prohibition section?
General prohibitions, right?
Okay.
And so, one, just as a matter of consistency, it'd be nice to link, but two, I like the standard here better. If you notice, the standard in the gift section hinges on the idea that it can be inferred that it was
That's right.
intended to influence, and that just opens up that as a principle,
Yeah.
that whole can of worms. Oh, no, I'm
Yeah.
giving you the $1,000 gift, not to influence you, because there's no way I can show enough gratitude. It's my son you're
Yeah, I
caring
don't ever wanna
for.
get in the job of second guessing
Yeah.
intent.
That's
Yeah.
absolutely right. So it seems to me like, and I like the kind of like,
The
in our
reasonable
business, what we
person.
call the externalist standard here,
Yeah,
that it's
reasonable
not what's
person.
going on in your heart, it's would a reasonable person looking at this situation question the professional's judgment given the gift that
Okay,
they're
well, I think that's good.
receiving.
I think it's a
Okay.
good idea.
So put that in number 8, but take out B, presumption under 50.
Right.
Why not do the other half?
Okay, if we took out B, and then we would take out C, right? Or we would say maybe other gifts, because we're no longer gonna delineate between 50, we're gonna just say, except as set forth in section 2 above, the employee shall not accept gifts unless disclosed and pre-approved by the ethics board or municipal ethics officer. I think that
I
works.
think that's right.
That's fine, and that
Yeah.
eliminates this $50. Yeah, that works
Yeah.
for me. Can I ask you quickly,
Sure.
Dee, where did you get the definition under 1A
Form of code.
gift? I figured that's where
Yeah,
it
and I
came
don't
from.
like that either, actually Linda and I
It's-
said
it's
it doesn't make
awkward.
any sense either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cause I start thinking, okay, well,
What about this?
immediately I start thinking of things that would fit, but wouldn't fit, right?
Yeah, right, exactly.
And so I was trying to create some language about how this is not
How about
exclusive of.
an item of value provided to a municipal employee for less than full value?
What?
That would,
Mhm.
David is questioning the definition of gift.
Once you start
1A.
listing things, then you start
Yeah.
thinking, well, what about something that's
Yeah,
not
Well,
on the
start
I
list?
thought we
thinking
could say
excluded items, yeah.
including but not limited to, I wrote
That's,
on my.
that's exactly what I was
Whether,
thinking
do we
of,
put
yeah.
that in, or do we just say an item,
Boy.
cash or cash equivalent of value get provided to a municipal employee for less than full value?
I think simplifying it is a good idea.
Okay, David,
But I
you have to
wonder-
come up with that. I'm signing you, you're, okay,
No,
Keith,
no, no.
you're signing.
No, I was suggesting what you're saying, an item of value, period.
Oh,
um,
okay, an item of value.
No, no, that's
Well,
what
I mean, do we wanna say
But-
maybe anything of
And-
value as
Any-
opposed to item?
right.
Because a service is
It's
not an item,
I
right? I mean,
know,
an item means
exactly.
object.
Mm-hmm,
Values,
mm-hmm.
service.
Anything.
Anything of
Anything of value?
That's pretty encompassing, isn't it?
Pretty, exactly. Anything, is it anything of value provided at less
Well,
than the
maybe we
value
do
price
say
or
including but
something.
not limited to.
Sure, yeah,
It's attorney language, but limited to, and we put, cash, cash equivalents, maybe put that in, cash, cash equivalents, services,
yeah,
discounts,
Hospitality, that's an important one.
entertainment.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
you might wanna, the whole list you got there, like the loan,
Mhm.
that's something, all the,
Well,
but
meal.
not limited to.
Yeah, include but not limited to
Yeah.
cash, cash equivalents.
No, I like that better. But now, is it going to cause a problem with the other code provision, or was this?
Oh, I don't think so, no.
Okay, alright.
I don't understand B.
And then just make it one
Eliminate.
sentence, or eliminate B and just make it one sentence.
Eliminate B, because,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah, I mean, it goes, yeah, if you're paying for it, well, it's not a gift, so.
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, I think you need B, don't you?
No, it's in there, just, instead of having an A and a B, just have it one definition.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
but
see, so
why-
that
why-
can keep the
Why
language.
include the
Right.
word for less than full value?
Oh, see, that's what Ted said, he's asking.
Oh,
me to
you're
delete that
talking about
language.
deleting it, the language.
Yeah, when you
Yeah.
look at it, you really don't need it.
Yeah,
It's something
that's
that's
true.
given to you.
I mean,
For less than, I suppose
Well,
that's,
and then what you're gonna have somebody come in and argue and
Mhm.
say, I paid
right,
$20 for that.
right,
And then, well, its fair market value
Right.
is this.
you need an estimator to get in here and start figuring.
Yeah, and then you're gonna get into, what is its value on eBay versus.
We actually had
Right.
one where airline tickets were given, and it was an airline pilot who gave them, so there was no cost, no value to him, but it was a very significant value to the teacher that received it.
You're right, do we need the language?
okay.
No, I don't
Well,
think we do.
Because
Perfect-
it's,
perfect
because it's.
example is, if you're a senior, 65 or older, and you go buy a ticket from Alaska Airlines, if you say, I'm a senior, you get 50% off,
How much?
50%.
Is that true?
That's true.
Oh,
Really?
I just
But
can't
they
wait
don't
till I'm
advertise
65.
that, but they will give it to you.
What's the age?
65.
Really?
Wow.
I don't know, I saw that on Facebook, quote unquote, and somebody else said, I tried that and it didn't work. So have you done that recently?
No, but my mother-in-law did about 2 years ago.
2 years ago, so I don't know if that's current.
She's significantly over 65, they probably wouldn't argue with her. Unless
No,
your
but-
wife is
but-
really
but-
young.
and other things like that. So I'm a municipal employee and I get a discount because I'm over 65.
But that
Does that
falls
fall-
into a discount or prize
But
available
that's,
to public
that has
sector
nothing to
employees
miss,
generally, or.
yeah, is that because you're municipal employee, or is that because you're over 65? That's a different situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I get discounted movie tickets, but that doesn't mean I have to declare it here.
Yeah.
So here's the worry I have, if we don't include the full value language, right, then strictly speaking, when I buy something, under that definition, it's a gift. Right, and then I'm prohibited from accepting, so when I accept a gift, under this definition, accepting a gift means receiving any object of value, whether I paid for it or not.
Where's the acceptance language in here? I'm sorry.
Oh, well, that would be where our new language is gonna be the one from 8, right, so it would say,
Where a reasonable person could,
yes, accept a gift from an individual or entity within it, so, now remember, when we say accept a gift, in our minds, I think we're smuggling in the concept that a gift is something that I accept, and I don't give back full value money for it, right? But if we take that language out, and now a gift means by definition, an object of value, right? So I bought this downstairs, and by our definition now, that was a gift that I accepted from the coffee lady downstairs.
Is
That's-
that language less than full value in the code? Is that where you,
Yeah.
that is also there?
Yeah, that's current language.
You know what I'm saying? Maybe
Well,
practically it wouldn't matter, but that's certainly peculiar for starters, and I just can't help but feel there's gonna be some sort of oddity that would eventually come up.
Well, Ted, do you have objection to us leaving it in for
Well,
You think it's redundant, you
Yeah,
think it might be
because,
helpful?
you know, what,
Has there
you know,
been any
why have
problems
it
so
here
far with
and
it?
other
With this using it?
places, you know, we're trying to eliminate.
Right.
Oh, yeah, but what we could do, and I think this, or we could get rid of it as B, right? I mean, so we could just
Right.
take that language provided at less than full and just roll it into A. So I mean, and then that makes sense, right?
Right.
What's a gift? A
Right.
gift is an item of value that someone gives to another person for less
Or you
than
can
the full
just-
value of what it's
well,
worth.
yeah, or just include it, any item of full value.
Mhm.
you have, you just have to say, Steve?
Or a piece of property on Kenai Lake,
Yeah.
or.
Okay, can I ask, before we go through some of the items in number 2, and make sure everybody agrees with those, is, okay, let's assume we're not gonna accept, we're not gonna agree to gifts under $50 any longer. What about teachers? So let's go back to the teacher issue, I guess.
Which is on the other page.
Yeah, is, right now, and I just picked this number out of the air from the, meeting we had with the teacher, with the board, and.
The $100?
Yeah, and by the way, for backdrop to the people who weren't there, well, I guess in some of the meetings here, it's pretty clear that we have at least 3 assembly members who just assume this be a zero gift policy. We have some people on the board that feel pretty similarly. And so 100 may be too high, but now that we are eliminating it for other employees, I think doom and gloom of eliminating it from the teacher section entirely. I think
Well, we're not we're eliminating it from a private person giving it to a teacher. Not, you know, and we've increased it, you know, from a PTA or anything like that. You know, the biggest thing they were saying, you know, that the gifts of more than $50 for school supplies and classroom supplies, this sort of thing. And of course, we've increased that through, but it's gotta come through the PTA or some other civic group, or a group of 5 or more parents. So, you know, it's not that we're eliminating it.
One here allows me to give $100
Yeah.
per year.
So that's what, as currently written, Ted, my revision
Yeah.
actually did allow, direct parent to teacher giving.
We're saying it's actually technically not a gift, by you saying it's excluded as a gift, it means it doesn't have to be disclosed, I'm assuming why you say it's excluded as a gift.
Yes. So because we're saying 0 to all other employees now, are we now saying parents can't give anything to teachers unless it falls into the, you know, homemade or crafted food? That if I wanna give supplies if I wanna give $45 for supplies to my teacher, I have to give it via the principal, or, I mean, is that how far you wanna go?
Oh, we're not adopting a 0 policy though, are we?
Well,
Well,
we have
no.
to the other employees now.
We have, where do we?
Yeah, we were saying, with other employees, we've just taken out the under and over 50
Yeah.
business and saying, except if you, unless you fall into this number 2
Mhm.
category, all these plaques and food and handmade gifts, you can't accept a gift
Or-
unless it's disclosed to the ethics board. and approved.
Unless it's
Well,
disclosed.
In other
Right.
words, we had talked about taking out C. And the reason for taking out
B
C
and C.
was,
B and C. Yeah.
was
Um,
because why should a land use officer ever get even like $25?
Right.
Yeah, why in the world are we getting any of that stuff?
Well, and you also have to look at how it appears,
Mhm.
you know what I mean?
Well,
No, I mean, but
no, this is kind of,
No,
when
no.
I first came here and I saw the ethics rules specifically did not, the rules here specifically talk about an appearance of impropriety is not enough to create an ethics violation. And that's in the rules here for the city, and I thought that's very strange, because every other set of ethics
That's
rules
right,
I've ever
that's right.
talked about
Right.
say, avoid the appearance of impropriety. So with that caveat, please proceed, but
but didn't we just
are
change
you,
that
are you
by-
advocating to
Yeah.
put that back in
No.
here?
No,
Okay.
because we just changed by,
Well, I think
we're
it
a
does,
reasonable
yeah.
person, by using the reasonable person standard, we just changed the appearance impropriety thing, I believe.
Well, unless otherwise stated, and now we're gonna adopt what
Now-
Terry
now
is
it's
saying,
otherwise stated, right?
that we're gonna put it in there, so I think that's fair.
Oh, I see, I see what you're saying, so I didn't, so the way I was thinking about it, oh yes, so now we're saying that unless your gift falls into category 2
Two.
here, you simply can't receive it,
Yeah,
okay?
As a municipal employee.
Whereas what I was thinking was, and this is what I was thinking was going on, was that we have this general principle, you can't receive gifts if a reasonable person would come to judge the professional's judgment.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, we used to have this list, what was the point of this list before, it was.
well, remember, it had all the different numbers, so it's a plaque worth 150, if it's a
Right,
this
right,
worth
right.
That's what it was
300, if
for,
it's
right.
this worth 25,
Right.
it was bizarre.
I mean, cause in answer to the question, like, why, I
Right.
mean, why might a municipal employee receive a gift?
Mhm.
Well, the chairperson of this board probably should give a gift to you and Lisa.
Yeah, but if you
at
give it
the-
to us, it's gonna be like the stuff you did before, which was handmade cookie stuff.
Well, that's what I did
and
this
that
year, you guys might
falls
remember,
within here, but see-
I gave people
I
out
remember
cookies,
that.
But
you know.
should
On
you
Minnesota.
give
But-
Lisa and
but-
I $20 for all our efforts?
Yeah, right, yeah,
Here's,
where's-
here's,
yeah.
here's.
I had a problem with the chair wasn't even in his distribution.
When Barbara Grinstein retired, well, on her last day, she was still speaking, I came and I gave her a bottle of wine on behalf of the Board of Ethics and taped a disclosure form on it with the receipts. This bottle of wine was under $50.
What may happen, when you simplify things and you just say, okay, a plaque is okay, then you will get people who try and push the edge, and somebody will spend hundreds and hundreds of hours carving an elaborate totem pole and put a little brass plate on the bottom, and that totem pole may be worth thousands of dollars, and they'll say it's a plaque, cause it's got a brass plate on it that says, this is to commemorate so-and-so's service.
Well, I think that's what
And
happened with
so-
Ted
and-
Stevens, right, there were a number of items
Yeah.
that were like, that was
And
with
so that's
custom
where you're gonna
rifles
run into
and-
trouble,
right.
is where people take real art items that took a lot of time, energy, effort to produce, which, you take off the little brass thing on the bottom and, carefully hide the nail holes, and then you have something that could be sold for fair market value for a good deal of money. And so I guess it just depends on how much you wanna gird yourself up to fight that sort of thing ahead of time, or just have sort of general language and then argue it when the case happens.
Well, and then that's where I think a reasonable person case comes through,
Mhm.
provided it's, if we ever hear anything about it. The issue is, if you look at, what was it, 155, cases, disclosure forms we had in last calendar year.
I don't.
Only 105 of them were teachers, and most of it was just gifts given by BTA.
I don't think we can legislate everything.
No.
No.
We can't. We can't, for every possible contingency. And I would feel comfortable
That's what a
not
hearing
chasing that.
officer is for.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I would feel comfortable, getting rid of 2. I'd be very comfortable, especially if we adopt the standard
Getting rid of
from
2.
Getting rid of
020. If
all
we
of them?
adopt the standard from 020, and then say, here's the definition of the gift, here's the principle. Don't accept anything that a reasonable person would look at and say, oh, I'm gonna question your judgment for having received that. And don't accept anything at all over $50, and then.
$100 for a teacher.
I'm not sure I'm
No,
into
let's get
100.
back to,
Hang
let's
on,
stay at one or the other,
yeah.
employees or teachers, so,
Let's
okay,
stick with-
I'm
let's
not
stick-
sure I
let's-
caught
The
what you're
reason I
saying.
say that is because I don't know if you're distinguishing between employees or teachers.
For right now, let's not talk about teachers, let's talk, I'm gonna talk about the employees one.
Oh,
For
okay.
right now, so I would,
Okay.
so what I would say is, define gifts,
Mhm.
have our principle of prohibition, and then say, and in no event accept a gift over $50, and then call it good.
Unless
in other
it
words, I
falls
don't-
into one of these other
No, and then I say
categories.
get rid of one of these, I say then get rid of these categories, say that don't receive something regardless of.
Oh, but see, I don't wanna get into plaques worth like $75 and
Well, but he's
think-
keeping the $50 limit, and so
Yeah,
when you keep
yeah.
the
I
$50
would tell you, I just
limit,
think-
then you don't have, you know.
No, but see, what, this is the $2,000 prize from ARCO to the best
That's
teacher
what I
of
was
the award.
thinking, that
I just
addresses
think
that,
this
yeah.
is the gift to your co-employee. I think these are real life categories and the public needs some
Well, when I think of it, but
guidelines.
remember, what the standard from 020 though, right, is that the relationship between the people have to be such that, right, with an entity with interests that may be substantially affected by the performance of the person's municipal duties. I think if you have 2 people, in other words, if we're talking about a colleagues buying a plaque, I'm not sure that that's the relationship that colleagues have to one another. If we're talking about someone who is substantially affected by the performance of that, yeah, then they shouldn't be buying them a $2,000 plaque or a $2,000 award.
But if you're
influence.
retiring and your co-employees get together and buy you something as a.
And they're gonna
gift.
buy you a nice one, $300 or $400.
Right, but that's not, a reasonable person would not say that is intended to influence the person's leaving. Right?
Keith, I just think these categories are so helpful to the average reader. You just have to address them somewhere.
Well,
That
should
this
they-
is
Well, I'm not
okay.
necessarily arguing with that, I mean,
But,
that's his argument.
and I think the reasonable person standard, I'll call it that, it overrides the whole thing. But then these, it's almost like we're giving these a pass unless there's some other reason to think differently.
Yeah, so what do you think about
I don't have a
making
problem.
3 2? So at least,
Yes.
so it should go
Yes.
definition, fundamental principle.
I agree with that, actually, and, yeah. And
Well,
I have little
3,
arrows on
2, where-
my section.
So the list of prohibitions would be number 2 instead of number 3, and then the items excluded as gifts.
And I'd like to call that something different, like items or gifts not generally, or gifts not prohibited, generally not prohibited, or something like that.
Right.
That call it, these are gifts, so let's call them gifts not
Mhm.
prohibited, something like that,
Exceptions to prohibitions.
okay?
Yeah, or maybe,
See,
I don't wanna make them exceptions, I mean, like the language, remember the language the code used to have something like, unless rebutted by other factors, it's presumed that the following kinds of gifts are consistent with this principle. So I don't wanna make them exceptions, cause I don't wanna say there's exceptions about, cause I don't think there are ethically exceptions to that principle.
Okay.
No one should, in this city, no one working for the city should ever receive a gift that a reasonable person would question their judgment. That should never happen. And then what we're saying, I think, in this list of items is, unless there's special circumstances, these things are typically
Okay, so
the
we gotta
kinds of
think
things
of a
that we think
name.
would be consistent with that principle.
Okay, so we
So in
gotta
other words,
think of a name.
so what's currently 2 items excluded, the way I see it is, that's strictly speaking not a rule.
Mhm.
It's strictly speaking, some guidance and illustration.
That's right, and I think that when you read statutes and things like, it's very common in court opinions, it's very common to have a list of general principles that help give guidance. Because otherwise, all you have is just the general reasonable person standard. And I think this, and these are real world examples of things that come up and we see, and I think that's very appropriate. Yeah.
So it would be, well, so we gotta think of a name for it.
Think of a name for it. I agree with Larry that it's not excluded, it would be
Yeah,
not
I do too,
presumed.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because
gifts generally presumed to be ethical or something like
Right.
that, you know, and then we say, hey, you know,
Mhm.
unless
Yeah.
there's other circumstances,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
again, these kind
We-
of gifts will be generally understood to be
Right.
consistent with the reasonable person standard.
Right.
Right.
But I think,
That's right.
you know, we need to, you know, call it something different, but there's certain things in here that need to be in there. You know,
I agree about taking
if
A
I
out.
take, if I meet with my assembly person out there, which I do, you know, frequently,
Yeah.
we meet to have coffee or lunch or whatever, and a lot of times I buy, sometimes they buy. You know, this gives me the ability to do that.
Mhm.
But if I pay, you know, lunch for $25 or whatever, you know, and it's allowed under this, you sitting there may not think so. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, it's okay in my mind, but it's not okay in your mind.
Mhm.
But,
Oh, I
so it's
see.
written here that it is okay.
Right,
You know, it's removing
yeah,
any doubt.
I
So,
agree, and I agree with the order also.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, I definitely would wanna switch order. And two small things while we're at it, I wondered whether, just what you brought up, Ted, if we, Linda had brought this up too, and this food or beverage number H is to put occasional food or beverage
Right.
purchase for immediate,
Right.
Right.
just put the word occasional in there.
Yeah.
And I was also, homemade or crafted, I was thinking, did you mean handmade or homemade?
Oh, yeah, well, I.
Or
handmade,
handcrafted?
Yeah, I don't know.
I didn't know
That,
if-
that whole thing, what should we
Well,
say?
handcrafted can be something that
Okay.
you buy at the store over here
Well,
that's.
how about
you know,
homemade?
That's homemade. Yeah.
Or handcrafted, I thought
Or
that was.
Some of the
handcrafted.
homemade in your own home or homemade by somebody who does native art.
Okay.
Well,
Well-
what I'm thinking
that's the
of
thing,
is
home,
there's
yeah.
several people
Yeah.
that make quilts.
Right,
You know,
no, I know, that's
they're
true.
Hundreds of dollars
Yeah.
value, and they're down, hung in the store down here. And, you go in there and buy one, well, it's handmade.
Well, I think then you get
Homemade,
into
and
the,
so-
then you get into these are presumed
How about a personally made?
I like it.
personally made.
Yeah.
In other words, my kid is in Ravenwood Elementary
Mhm.
and I'm baking the brownies, sewing
Sure.
the apron. I
Yeah.
personally did it. I didn't
Right.
buy it from somebody else who personally did it.
Right.
I personally,
Right.
or a member of my family personally made it.
Right.
Okay,
It's okay.
I don't know,
Yeah.
that sounds weird though.
yeah.
I don't mind homemade or home crafted, but I think then we do have to add some sort of limit, like under $50.
Well, I was gonna just put the word small,
Well,
I was just gonna say a small handmade or homemade
Oh,
item,
then
including
people-
artwork. Well, but again, we can't
And the
police
jeweler's gonna say,
everything.
but the diamond's very small.
No, we just
Well, then-
can't.
And I just noticed you did put a $50 in here for the food or beverage. Yeah. Boy,
Well, at first I had 25, but it could be less, why don't we put?
no, I just.
No, that,
Of course, with the state elected officials, it's $15, isn't it? You can't take somebody to lunch or dinner, so they have to disclose it, it's over 15.
they have to disclose the result.
Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
what I.
Food or
wow.
beverage, immediate
Yeah,
consumption.
food or beverage purchased for immediate consumption value less than $50.
I
It's
wouldn't
like-
mind getting rid of H.
Just getting rid, yeah, you know, every time I go have lunch with a judge or something, we just split it right down the middle.
Uh-huh.
You know, we don't get into who's buying whom I don't know. And then taking somebody out to lunch, I don't know. I think that's what,
Well, the only problem, you know, of course, I take a lot of, you know, I go
Yeah.
and meet a lot of people for lunch.
Right.
You know, a lot of police officers
right,
for lunch, and sometimes they buy, sometimes I buy.
right,
You know, because they're, you know, personal friends of mine, but they're in uniform, you know?
Well, here's where I think you're gonna see a problem, is people who work for corporations or
Mhm.
construction companies, they have expense accounts.
Mhm.
And they can expense their lunches out or their
Mhm.
dinners out and get tax write-offs or
Mhm.
whatever. But if they're doing that, then they don't feel the pain in their pocketbook, cause it's their
Mhm.
corporation picking up the bill. And they could start taking so-and-so out,
Mhm.
and then it just starts to kinda escalate,
Mhm.
and then that person who's being taken out says, oh yeah, Joe Blow's such a great guy, he takes me out to lunch every first of the month, and we go to Orso's and Simon and Seifert's and the Crow's Nest, and we have a great time.
And I would expect my boss to look at my expense account and says, okay, you're taking the same guy to lunch all the time, are we getting business from that? Why am I paying for you to go to lunch with this person?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not-
the answer might be,
Yeah.
oh,
I'm
wow.
not sure
Well,
Because he's
here-
gonna make
here-
favorable
here-
judgments
here-
for
Uh,
us.
Here's the
Is there a
good
specific
vibration we're
reason
getting
why you
back.
That's right,
Yeah.
that's absolutely.
I guess
right.
cause I was just thinking of the small
Yeah.
lunch
Yeah.
business.
Well, but I know, but I'm looking, but her scenario of somebody on a continuous basis, you're trading back and forth with police officers who are also friends, I don't have any, personally have issues with it, and you don't think that violates their rules?
Well, no,
Well,
and,
no,
but
'cause
notice,
they're-
number one is items given to an employee that are not connected with the recipient's
Right.
status as a municipal employee, right? So it seems to me if you're going out
With a
with
friend.
people who
Right.
you have an established relationship as friends, just them being in uniform, I think, doesn't put you in that, necessarily in that professional to
Even in
professional
uniform, you still
relationship.
gotta eat.
Yeah.
That's
Are
also-
you-
But
are you-
I think it would, but Ted, it seems to me it would be different, and maybe there is a potential conflict with you being on the Board of Ethics, right? I mean, because if you were an assembly member, I would have a lot of problems with it.
And all
Right,
you
if you
have
were
to
the
do is-
mayor, I would have a lot of problems with police
All you
officers
have to
buying
do
you
is-
lunch,
all-
ever.
And all you have to do is split the check. No, I know, I understand your situation. If you go get a cup of coffee for an old buddy, but
Yeah.
I understand that, but it might be easier just to eliminate H. And are we eliminating A still, or are we leaving A in now?
Well, I
Well,
had
but
it
if we
lined out.
eliminate H, then we're eliminating the allowance of getting food.
Mm-hmm.
So then you're saying just no food or beverage at
Yeah,
all ever?
That's right, you're
Well,
splitting
well,
the check.
you could keep D and
D is
say
still
you
in
can
there.
have
Yeah.
food or beverage if it's, a birthday or a
That's right.
retirement party or a very special occasion.
Yeah,
And with a group.
And a
You
group,
bring
right,
in,
and,
you bring in cupcakes for your kids' class.
right.
I'm gonna get gifts yet to those
Yeah.
teachers.
I think if I remember the federal ethics correctly, they allow small items for immediate consumption like coffee and donuts, but not
Sure.
meals.
Right.
So,
Well,
I'd
the-
rather not go
I
with
just,
that strict.
I just hesitate to get in to open the can. I know,
Well-
Ted. I understand.
Well, I think D is important. I'd like to keep D in, whether
Yeah.
everybody wants to take H
Yeah.
out, so business lunches are gone.
Maybe just go Dutch treat.
Because the thing is, if I go out to lunch with a police officer, are they allowed to let me buy it? Is that when? No, I
think
mean,
so.
No,
mine
you
is-
guys, Ted can, cause he's friends, it's not, it's
Yeah,
outside
but
of his
that's
municipal,
outside
yeah.
of that's outside of, that's because they're friends.
Yeah.
That way H doesn't affect that then.
Yeah, that one would cover all
Yeah,
that one, and our
that's
general
right.
principle, again, our general principle, it's gotta be a professional
right.
relationship where the city employees' judgments have some sort of
Right.
substantial impact on this person.
Right. I think that's right, so you can go have lunch.
You
with
can
them.
for now, and that's why we'd have to have some sort of clause saying, unless there's special circumstances.
It would take
Now,
Carlson
If
exception.
one of your friends, if one of your friends had an ethics complaint
Right.
against him or her, then the situation's completely different, right?
Right,
Whether you have
that's right.
long-standing friendship or not,
Yeah.
they can't be buying you
But
that
assuming that
cup of
doesn't
coffee.
happen, you can go out to lunch with your buddies.
Yeah, cause you can buy a lot of influence with coffee and donuts. No doubt.
Well, with cops you can.
With cops, right?
Yeah, I know. You have to pick the restaurants very carefully around town.
And I say that from a family of cops where we used to drop donuts all the time at the local precinct. Hey guys, how's it going? Here's some Dunkin' Donuts.
I mean, I don't have any preference one way or the other on H. I can actually see where that can be, taking it out can create some issues, but, cause I mean, you could go in town here and eat at the Captain Cook and I suppose have dinner and wine. It's gonna cost more than $50.
Oh, it's gonna cost a lot more than 50.
But generally in town, that's
Not good eating.
that's pretty good eating
Yeah.
for one person. We're not talking
And you
about.
could go to the, depending on what you got. You go to
Yeah.
Jens's, if you got halibut, you
Yeah.
get halibut, 2 glasses of wine. Yeah.
Okay, so the ethics board is debating whether to leave this in or not, and maybe just get a show of hands, and the other thing is to let it's gonna go to the assembly, they may debate it back in again. You
Sure.
know, It's a
Absolutely.
simple policy,
Sure.
so
Yeah.
the board has their own recommendation, and then let whatever it becomes, let the.
Let that be.
I got the feeling from the assembly, at least the 3 members that were here, they wanna restrict us even more than we do.
Yeah.
And is that kind of why, how you were writing?
Well, that
it?
was as to the gifts I could see, but I would assume that would
Fine.
translate over. Well, but Keith, can I suggest let's just get a show of hands which way we wanna
Sure.
go on this one, in or out?
We're talking about
Yeah.
2H?
H, I say.
I say eliminate it.
Okay, 2
Me too.
eliminates.
That's fine.
Are you sure you're okay? I
Yeah,
know
I'm
you
okay.
seem quiet.
I'm okay
disappointed.
with it.
Then that's
Just-
3 out of 5,
I don't wanna-
and I don't need to even just.
Steve?
I don't want
Because I
it-
don't think it'll affect what
Okay.
you're doing.
No, it won't, but I don't want it to generate complaints,
Alright, so we're gonna
Right.
delete that.
you know.
Excuse me.
Right,
I don't
and,
wanna-
and then thus burden us with complaints.
Right, and burden
Right.
us with complaints.
My main thing is I don't wanna make Ted angry.
I don't either. And all of his cop buddies.
I don't want
Suddenly they're patrolling my house.
Yeah, hey.
That's right.
So-
What is your exact position outside this table and room?
That's right.
I'm a retired police captain.
Yeah, suddenly you're getting pulled over every
Yeah,
time.
suddenly.
Suddenly.
Every time
You're
I'm
pulled
in a
over by,
section.
like,
Yeah,
"Hey,
I
I'm
was
still
on
on my
the-
driveway, I don't care, mister, sir, please get out of your car. Ted, is this the one? Okay, yeah, get out of your car, sir.
We've got actually in our neighborhood an officer, so.
Yeah.
How
Okay.
about now, another one I have some concerns about is, C.
Wedding,
Mm.
birthday, retirement.
Like coworkers.
Well, I think you should just, scratch, wedding or
Wedding.
birthday, just scratch them two, and, you know, retirement given voluntarily by municipal.
I feel good about
co-workers.
retirement, and I like the, you know, and I understand the wedding and birthday thing, you know, and if the idea of this list is to kind of like provide guidance for the kind of thing, but again, I think we do need to add either it's a nominal, you know, small nominal value, or it's gotta be under $50, or something like that, or, and then maybe also define more clearly what a coworker is.
Why do we
Why?
care? I just
It
don't.
says
Well,
by,
okay, so is-
why coworkers? Why, it's
Is my
specifically by
supervisor
coworkers.
in a department a coworker?
Yeah,
Okay, so they're getting married and I buy them a $5,000 gift for their wedding.
Yeah, well,
Oh, and my performance evaluation's coming up.
Okay, but then that would then come under
Ah.
the reasonable person, definition, because a reasonable
Yeah,
person wouldn't
I-
say that would.
Yeah, I know, but we're offering this list as the
Well,
kind of
but-
list that's gonna be presumed to be.
yeah, but
Okay,
why don't we just say, an item given to a municipal employee for a special occasion given voluntarily by municipal co-workers, period.
yeah, cause it could be other special occasions.
Yeah, so just leave,
Yeah, what if somebody's mom dies and you wanna
Sure.
put together
Yeah.
a fund for
Right.
flowers
or
or
some
to
flowers
donate
or
to
something
their
like that.
Right.
So-
charity of choice?
So just for a special occasion.
Eliminate the examples.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay with
But I
that.
do see Terry, I see his
Yeah, I
point
know.
with respect to somebody trying to, say, influence their supervisor by giving an overly large.
Right.
Happy birthday,
And does,
happy
and
wedding.
Right.
Can we, can we possibly say in our items excluded, somehow in the title there, that the reasonable,
Well,
But that
remember, this-
subsumes that,
Yeah, remember, this is going to now follow that overall definition
Yeah.
of what's reasonable.
and
that's-
then we have
So-
the general prohibitions, which also say
Right.
you can't use your position over another person, and.
Right,
I mean, we already have sort of the general bad behavior
Okay.
standards.
right,
okay, so,
Right.
so if somebody
Yeah.
does give a large gift,
yeah.
if somebody makes a complaint, this board could reasonably, you know, look at it and say, well, you know, that's not part of the exception, because you went way
Well,
overboard.
and that's why the
Again.
language, the language that starts out this
That's
section
right,
is
should
gonna
not
be
be
very,
exception.
very important, and
Yeah.
it's gotta be made clear, cause of what I'm seeing now
Mhm.
is that people will look at this and go, oh, these are the exceptions to the rule.
Mhm.
And then they're gonna, if there is a complaint, they're gonna come to this board saying, well, you listed out
Mhm.
birthday and wedding presents, and so, yeah, I kept giving my supervisor $1,000 plus
Mhm.
presents,
But
or it's a
that's
teacher,
given
it's a
by-
teacher, I kept giving my principal
Mhm.
$1,000 plus, presents, and look, you listed it, so you led me astray.
Right.
Now, once again, relying on my background with the federal stuff, you're allowed to give more to your peer than you're
Mhm. Right.
allowed to give to your supervisor.
Mhm.
Right.
And there are much stricter limits on gifts that go up the chain as
Right.
opposed to gifts that go across or down the chain.
That's my feeling too. That's my
And
yeah.
so,
By the way, there's lunch in
I guess the thing is, you know, streamlining and the values of being succinct versus being overly abundantly clear.
That's right, that's right. And that's the thing, and
And that's
I wouldn't
intention
mind,
you're
I
always
wouldn't
gonna
mind
have.
that section at all if we said, yeah, if we said, you know, given voluntarily by municipal coworkers in a non-supervisory relationship.
You might add the word group of coworkers.
And we might say, but I don't mind
Yeah.
individual, I mean, look, I don't mind one
Right.
coworker giving to another coworker a birthday present, even a really nice birthday present if they're good friends or what have you. To me, when you start having a supervisory relationship, that's a problem, and yeah, maybe it's a little bit, you know, bah humbug, but I just think that's just one of the things you take on when you're a supervisor. I think when you become a supervisor for someone. you just-
So in a coworker in a non-supervisory role.
Right.
Yeah, and then eliminate those two examples.
Well, then it makes it
And
perfectly
then-
consistent with the principle anyway.
Right.
The principle, the general principle we're operating under is,
Right,
what we're
that's-
worried about is professional relationship in which the judgment
Right.
affects the person. Most of the time, if we're talking lateral, people in a lateral
Right.
situation,
And if we're trying to give guidance, we're
we're not
trying to
making
work-
exceptions, we're giving
Right.
guidance, or the kind of things that are typically gonna be right down the middle of the fairway.
And I
the
agree
kind of
too
things
that
are gonna
the
be-
title of this section is gonna be important, the presumption, use presumption, not exception, use, guidance as opposed to rules, you know, those types of things.
Now, do you want to consider giving for a supervisor a retirement exception?
Yeah, well, yeah.
For somebody who's departing,
You know,
or do you not want to fight that battle?
You guys, I think that this is,
Yeah.
gets into the whole what if, I'm just saying, the what
know.
if categories. If someone wants to
Yeah.
abuse this and I wanna give my boss
Right.
something nice, I'm gonna do it outside of work, no one's ever gonna
Right.
know, we're not gonna even think about this.
Right.
This is to me a very simple statement, hey, guys, yeah,
Yeah.
Christmas parties and birthday parties for staff is fine. I just think we're getting
Yeah.
too into the weeds
Right.
here.
No, I know, and that's one of the reasons that I wasn't fond of H, is because you start introducing numbers when we're trying to eliminate these numbers, that's right.
Mhm.
And I should point out, that's why many codes of ethics would just not
Eliminate the
do this whole
examples.
list, not even get into the whole list.
That's why
particularly-
you're making this
Particularly in
complicated.
Europe, because they're like, your ethics codes have
Yeah.
gone very abstract, and here's the
Yeah.
general principle, and you make, and so every
Sure.
gift you receive, think carefully.
Right.
If you get called before a board of ethics, they're gonna be making judgments
Sure.
based on their perspective about, so
Right.
caution beware, right?
Do you think that maybe have the rule as the code, but then either in like the P&P or some other place have this kind of stuff as commentary on the rule, but not the actual rule?
Do we have anything like that?
That'd be great.
We do have a P&P on, it just really restates about 80% of the ethics code.
Yeah.
The problem with the P&Ps is they may or may not apply to the assembly employees, their mayoral directives, and there's other stuff going on with the P&Ps.
So that might
Um,
not be the place to put it, but
Well, then it's just another place for people to
Yeah,
look, I mean,
right.
you know, I understand
mean-
exactly what you're saying, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I think we want to address it. This is something that is given out to people at their, orientations and,
Mhm.
and
Well,
again,
Dee,
we're.
can we put it in the code? Can it be,
This in the
can you
code?
have a commentary in the code?
We haven't done it so far.
Is that legally possible? Because I know it's statute, right? I mean, is it legally possible? Federal does that all the time, isn't there
Well-
commentary in
Yeah, yeah.
the law?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Why don't we just do that? Why don't we just put I know it'd be new for us to do, but maybe we
Uh-huh.
should start doing that generally anyway. But in fact, it might be pretty darn helpful for people as they're going through the code, including future iterations of this board, to have commentary written right in the code, you know.
So that you understand what the intent was at the time.
That kind of articulate,
Yeah,
yeah,
so the
and that way you can have all
commentary
these
is not
caveats.
statute, and it's not binding the way statute is, but it elucidates where the thing was trying to go.
That's right. And you don't have to use bullet point language, and you can include those caveats. Generally, a small birthday present to you would be acceptable. Generally, you can start kind of like fleshing it out a little bit more, because you're allowed to use looser language. You're not trying to use, 8 words, and then you're worried about, is it airtight enough that it's gonna like capture all these exceptions or not?
But then that would also just once again depend on whether the assembly is comfortable with that, because if you're asking them to enter new territory and it's uncharted for them, they might be nervous.
I think that's a huge additional work to do.
Yeah.
I think we should come up with something fairly straightforward. If later on we wanna, that kind of thing might be better in a PMP than, there's just no commentary in our code except for the charter commentary. We haven't, and whether there's a conscious decision not to go there, I don't know. But, so maybe a PMP in that regard, or a handout that, is given to people at orientation.
Well, you know, a lot of codes of ethics, do have commentaries
Mhm.
running through them.
Oh, I'm not
Right,
saying
I
in
mean,
general that,
the model rules
but
of
our
conduct,
code
yeah.
doesn't, our municipal code
There's
doesn't.
a commentary that's in the rules of conduct, right? That
Yeah.
after each principle, there's then like sort of an articulation.
So we're still discussing two.
C.
To C.
G and H. Oh, no, H we had to delete it, okay.
H we're deleting.
G, we just need to word
G
it.
just worded. You know, I like the idea of eliminating wedding, birthday, retirement. And then.
Just let it say, so you don't have to say such as, you just say for special occasion period.
Special occasion given voluntarily by
Voluntarily.
municipal co-workers,
A group of
just, by, no, just,
Or co-workers, okay.
just by,
Yeah, that's
voluntarily
what I
co-workers.
say.
And then the question then becomes whether you add the clause to a non-supervisory, in a non-supervisory role. My thought is just to leave it, but I'm kind of with Dee a little bit, as far as
Mhm.
keeping it simple, keeping the guidance simple.
Right.
It should be, meaning the guidance is not meant to account for every possible contingency. It's meant to give guidance under the general principle that it should not be, it shouldn't be a shocking the conscience kind of a deal. You can't be doing this stuff. You must be doing it within the context of the overall rule. And I think that any reasonable reading of that would be municipal coworkers, in that you're not giving these large gifts to your supervisors. I think that's under the general rule. I think that would be my thought, is to keep it simple.
Just because you're a supervisor, there's a lot of different areas, or,
Yeah.
where they call each other co-workers. you know.
Right.
And like right here, he's our supervisor, he's the chair.
That
If I
doesn't
wanted
make
to
you
buy
a
him
supervisor.
a birthday present, or if we wanted to get,
Right.
Yeah, I think technically a supervisor should be somebody who has control either over your promotions or your
Right.
performance appraisals.
Right, or salary
Somebody-
or something.
yeah.
Or some sort of.
I think that would be my suggestion. Anybody have something else? I mean, we should probably just make a decision to move on.
yeah, just,
I like, if we think about the list as providing,
Guidance.
here are some real standard occasions where you're gonna be on really firm ground if this is what's happening. Then it seems to me, for me at any rate, if you add non-supervisory relationship, that sounds like firm ground. It's someone's birthday, it's someone's wedding, they're not your supervisor, you buy them a gift. By and large, I've got no
As
problem with that,
an
and I think in almost,
individual.
in 98% of the time, that's gonna be perfectly consistent with our
But
principle.
if-
To me, it just gets grayer when you start talking about people buying gifts
and
for their
eliminating
supervisors.
some and what-
Yeah, for special, cause it's, special occasions such as, so that's not even necessarily the exhaustive list, right? So it's wedding, birthday, retirement I have less problems with, right,
Mhm.
because the person is leaving, but wedding, it's wedding, birthday, it's the
Funeral.
holidays,
Yeah.
it's July, happy
Correct.
4th of July, right? I mean, it's.
I still maintain though that it's under the context of the general rule, which should be a reasonable person standard. So if you're giving your boss, who is in charge of your promotion over other people, large gifts, well that violates the overall principle.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of, I would, and this would be my take on it, there are probably lots of circumstances where, you may have a supervisor who, I suppose technically could have control of, but that shouldn't prevent you from providing them a gift of some kind, so long as it's reasonable.
Right.
Because a lot of relationships with supervisors aren't like that, right? I mean, you have a good relationship with your supervisor. I mean, I could have gone to the city prosecutor when I was there, and like, he's gonna, I mean,
Mhm.
like at Bruce Roberts, oh, I gave him a big gift, like, give me a break. You know,
Mhm.
it's, the relationship I had with him, didn't translate into that kind of circumstance. And I would think that I wouldn't wanna limit that. On the other hand, so my take still is to leave it out, but we should just vote on it and move on.
The other reason I don't like the word supervisor is just, it means so many different things under
Right.
every CBA, and it's not it's not simple in our system.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot of times it would just be laughable, at least going to Bruce
And people
Roberts and
do,
thinking
I
that.
mean, it's weird, but
Yeah.
people do acting assignments, and they do
Right.
this, and they get, it's,
Right. So-
it's a real problem.
There are lots of ways to butter up to a supervisor besides giving a grandiose gift. I don't know,
As long as the reasonable person standard always
Right,
applies,
it
I don't
always-
really have any, I don't have
yeah.
any problem with any of this, to be perfectly honest with you. But, and that has to be, I guess, extreme, so that they can't say, well, these are excluded from the consideration, so, no, the reasonable person still applies.
Yeah, that's right. No, my worry is just, you know, if we're saying these are illustrations,
Yeah,
that we don't misguide people,
Yeah.
that someone gets a complaint filed against
Yeah.
them.
And say,
So,
hey,
gosh,
well, you told me it's
listed this
okay.
thing, it said for birthdays and special occasions, so for
Right.
every special occasion, I gave a, not insane, a moderately priced gift to my supervisor
Right.
over and over, and it turned out to be, it was like 8 times a
Wedding
year.
anniversary,
or,
their
you know.
birthday, boss's day,
Well,
Christmas.
Well,
That's
and
why
after
we're
all-
here.
And after all, remember, and part of the issue might be, you know, in many office cultures, that became the
That's true.
expectation. I saw that everyone was giving them, you know, a real nice bottle of wine for every special occasion throughout the year. So I just started following
Sure.
suit. And when you explicate the code, you said this is the kind of thing where I'd be on firm ground. Now it turns out I'm not.
Right.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, no, I
That's my
understand.
concern. I mean, you know,
Yeah, I get it, I get it.
Whereas retirement, I think, you know, you are, the circumstances would have to be very, very peculiar for a
Sure.
retirement gift to violate the reasonable person standard.
Right.
Collective workers together giving someone, yeah, I feel pretty
Unless the
good about that.
supervisor hadn't yet nominated his replacement, and then you're giving a good gift well in advance of the retirement. I mean, you could think up any number of different ways.
Yeah, but that's why I say, I mean, notice the circumstance there, I think that's starting to get kind of peculiar, that would be unusual. Whereas I think in a lot of office cultures, if
Sure.
you said gift giving is acceptable to give to your supervisor, it's, you know, particularly in the corporate world, right? The gift giving to supervisors then becomes rampant.
Hey, I hate to interrupt. I need to run to my next meeting.
Okay,
Thanks.
Thanks, Steve.
I
All right,
followed
Steve.
the conversation and agree with it, in general with what everyone's saying.
okay.
Steve, did you get that bottle of wine I left in your office? I left it for all the deans and associate deans.
I did.
I'm up,
and
I'm
I
up for
appreciate-
retention this year, I just wanted to let you know that.
Yeah, and I appreciate you putting the
Oh,
receipt
no
with it.
problem, yeah, great.
All right, thanks.
Thanks.
$8
No,
Costco
thank
bottle.
you.
Do we have to do anything to hang up here?
So given voluntarily by non-subordinate municipal
Right.
coworkers.
That's right.
Well,
Which is not to be confused with insubordinate.
That's right, it's maybe the same thing, but.
So, can we just vote on it then, like we did
Well,
last time? Move on,
I
or
think it should, you know, should just say an item given to a municipal employee for a special occasion given voluntarily by municipal co-workers, you know,
I agree. That's my vote.
I
but
think just
but I
to
also
go with
understand
that,
Terry's
you know.
position, but that's.
It's 2-1, what's your vote?
That's my vote.
I agree with Ted, provided it's real clear that the reasonable person
Okay.
stated
Well, I mean,
is clear.
All right, so we're good.
if my boss, you know, and I'm there and his wife dies, I'm gonna go buy him a
Yeah.
big bouquet of flowers, or,
Right.
you know, 10
Is
flowers.
there anywhere else in the code that talks about just straight up supervisor-subordinate relationships?
Not an ethics code.
No,
I'm
just the
not
one
sure
spot where
if
someone
there's
can't
now.
use their position to take advantage of
yeah.
another.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's
Right.
often been understood. When we've had that come up in the past, it's been supervisory relationships
Right.
where.
Do we have the ability to continue meeting? I mean, I don't think it's okay that Steve had to leave, but the rest of us, do you have the time?
Yes, and
And
we
I have a
actually
1:30
have
hearing
scheduled
to get
12 to
to.
2.
Oh, okay. And
Yeah,
the
you
reason
have to
why I
leave
say,
about
I think
1:30.
we really need to get on to this teacher
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, sure, let's.
Oh, yeah, that's big.
Let's move on. Yeah, and we'll
say-
just, and keep it, you know, we'll just have to be real careful about the language
Yes.
that opens this section,
I
saying that
agree.
these are not exceptions, these are illustrations of the kinds of gifts. And maybe even say, you know, the reasonable person standard should
Still
always
subject to the-
apply,
yes,
yeah.
and
I
still
think-
subject to
And I think
section.
that will help people say,
Yeah.
you know, that way if they do get into the kind of circumstances where they're like, oh, well, wait a minute, okay, that, you know, it's their birth, it's the boss's birthday, but,
Mhm.
Right, I agree.
okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, teacher stuff.
Teacher stuff. So this is section 4.
Yeah.
Because we've already dealt with, okay.
One thing Dee and I discussed prior to the meeting is maybe in subpart A, little I, taking out the from a group of 5 or more parents.
I noticed that, yeah.
And just leaving it from a PTA or parent forum or from a community group.
Is that too
Right.
little I?
And the
Yeah.
reason I would
Because that
support
would
that.
fall under parent forum.
Well, not only that, but given the cliques in groups,
Yeah.
the out groups, you could have
Mhm.
sort of like a group, and even if it's not, you know, one kid with mom, dad, grandma, grandpa,
Mhm.
making your 5 people, but even if it is 2, 3, 4, 5 families, they could still be the in kids of the class, and the way bullying happens and stuff, they could kind of run the classroom for the year if they are the in kids or the favorite
Sure,
kids.
they feel special, and I agree.
And
Yeah.
so, I'm just, you know, I think when it's a PTA or parent forum or community group, it's a broader slice of the general public.
Yes.
And it's not even necessarily related, it may include a kid or two who's in that teacher's actual classroom, but it might also include
Sure.
parents who had a kid with the teacher the year before, or 2 years before, or, you know, so that it's, and it bespeaks more of a general consensus rather than a currying for favor.
So I understand what you wanna change is you want to say, under double I, or from a group of parents or students, take
For-
out
No,
From the
five or more.
PTA or parent forum, or from a community group,
Period.
Period.
delete,
Yeah.
or from a group of 5 or more parents or
The-
students.
The
And-
only, there's only one incident where that might come in, and that's, I'm thinking of, I have a son that's in band.
Yeah,
And all of the band
That's
kids
what I was
got
thinking of.
together and bought the band leader after they won the national, got together and bought him a plane ticket. All the band kids, you know, the kids, everybody brought in $5, $10 or whatever. You know, that, but, you know, that
Well-
could,
it actually happens more than you think. The
Don't they
team
have
members of
like
a
a
team buy
band
it for the coach.
booster club then? Don't they
yeah, they
make
have
some
booster
sort?
clubs.
Well,
So-
wouldn't that be a community group?
Well,
And-
maybe we should
and-
put booster clubs in here though, cause that's very common in
Yeah,
Anchorage.
so
Yeah.
specifically say booster club or
Yeah,
something like
okay.
that.
Yeah,
PTA, parent forum,
booster club,
booster club,
Or
or a
community
community
group.
group, like
Okay.
the,
yeah, because that would be appropriate, the booster.
yeah.
Don't you call it?
Okay.
Well, but we've allowed disclosures of people who, you know, a parent, one of the teachers took a bunch of kids to, was it Costa Rica recently?
Yeah, right.
And the parents got together and bought something for this teacher who was unpaid while they were on the trip. And they were a group of parents. Now, that could have gone through the PTA or through the principal or through a booster club, whatever, but the parents got together. We've always given a pass to that because it was a group of parents, it wasn't one teacher, it's not designed to influence that teacher for that particular kid.
Maybe like trap kids.
I mean, that could be a parent
Or
forum.
sporting group,
Yeah,
maybe.
but it's,
Well, booster clubs,
I'm-
that's perfect.
Is that a booster, I don't know, what is a
Yeah.
booster club?
Like East, baseball.
Oh, right,
Uh,
okay,
They,
gotcha.
the school
So,
gives
yeah.
them
Okay.
letters and everything else is provided by parents.
I see, okay.
Are we saying in A1,
We haven't done that yet.
we went right straight to eight.
yeah, I noticed that. Are we saying that if a teacher receives a series of gifts, each one in and of itself consistent with the code, that the cumulative effect of the gifts, if they come to total more than $100 a year, the cumulative effect would be a violation of the code, that the cumulative effect would be the kind of thing that would lead a reasonable person to question their judgment? Is that sort of like the
think
logic
so.
behind
Yeah,
that?
I think so.
Yeah, that's how I would interpret a total sum of money or item of value
think the
what it
concept is save $50 a semester. I assume that's what it was
Mhm.
designed to. Like $50 a semester is
Yeah,
okay.
so like a $50 gift certificate at Christmas time and a $50 end of the school year gift.
Immediately before finals, exactly.
That strikes me as very reasonable. But it seems to me that that would also be true for city employees generally.
Yeah, this is something new, if we're gonna say 0 to city employees, is there an exception to be made for direct giving between parent and teacher?
Okay, so now I'm confused about why we think we're saying 0 for city employees, because.
Other than those items,
Because we eliminated it.
cause we didn't say under 50 is okay.
I guess.
Well, but no, but wait a minute, now, but what we did, but what we said we're doing now is that we've got this general principle,
Right.
the reasonable
Mhm.
person standard.
Right.
We're now offering, section 2 is now just a list,
Examples.
That's
an
right.
sampling list. So it seems to me that we're not
Here-
saying 0, we're saying you can receive all sorts of gifts from people, but that none of them had better be the kind of gift that a reasonable person would come to question your judgment. So all sorts of small gifts, and in some sense, in practice, the nominal small gift that you give would often, maybe even most of the time, be acceptable.
I see what you're saying, if we are saying that, then maybe we should also be saying just that disclosure, gifts over $50 have to be disclosed, and then we're talking general employees.
That's right, and even if you're receiving all these nominal small gifts, they better not total more than $100 during the year, because there is this cumulative effect that would lead to influence.
Okay, well,
that
that's
we think.
teachers who
Ah,
give out
but
to
what I'm saying is that
Right.
I don't think we
He
need a
wants
second
that rule
section
for
for teacher.
all employees.
All employees.
I don't think we need,
Well-
if you read it that way, I don't think you need a separate section for teachers. Which is the way I'd like to have it. I'd like to, not to have a separate category and make it, among one things, I'd like not to make it seem like we're having extra restrictions on teachers that are not being applied to other city employees.
Well-
And two, I don't think, if we can avoid having yet another category of persons in the code. And if we read it that way, if it's sound to say people should not be accepting gifts over the course of a year from any one person when they have that professional kind of relationship with them that total more than $100, I think that's just as true for city employees generally as it is for teachers.
Okay, the intent of this wasn't to have the cumulative standard, it was just to allow the teachers to get more than we're letting the other employees to get. Again, and there's no reason anybody should give me $20 for doing my job, versus there is the presumption, I think, that teachers are supplementing educational supplies and.
Well, yeah,
Well, but
that-
even apart from that, there's also the distinction that teachers are someone with whom the students especially have a daily contact. So a real relationship is formed, even though it's rooted in the professional relationship, it's someone they are seeing 5 days a week for a large part of the year. Whereas there's very few other municipal employees, inspectors, those sort of things, they deal with the public, but they don't have that, seeing that person 5 days a week for 6 hours or more a day. And so, teachers do build a kind of personal relationship with their students that other municipal employees don't build with the general public.
Should they be rewarded for that? I mean, they negotiated a good wage through their union or, labor agreement, so. See, I was under the impression that the money they get for school supplies, schoolroom supplies and stuff like that, being reimbursed for, because a lot of teachers do that. And that's what we should be concentrating on, is allowing that to happen. The PTA through these other,
Yeah,
but to, I think they should not be allowed to take any cash.
Our back to school list requires us to bring in a lot of school supplies that I know are more than what
Right.
my kid uses in a year.
Right.
I mean, I've given enough Kleenex to elementary schools to wipe the noses of a small
country.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because if the
But-
intent of A1 is to be more permissive, then I guess I object. I mean, if A1, I mean,
That
because
was
it could
the
also.
intent.
Yeah, because if it could be read, I mean, because if it could be read to mean that.
That was the
'cause she
'cause that-
wants to give
well,
more.
Because notice,
There's
I mean,
a way to
like,
give more.
Then it looks to me like it's at least potentially in conflict with the general principle that we're articulating. It's, 5 days before grades are due, and I'm gonna write my teacher a $99 check. No, I'm gonna give her $99 in cash. That's been the kind of stuff that this board for the last few years has said, we have a problem with that.
Right.
But A1 makes it look like that's okay.
Well, we could put, school supplies, you can donate school supplies.
You see, I'm sorry, that's why I was reading, my initial read on A1 was, oh, this must be about cumulative gifts.
Yeah,
If you're getting
it
a bunch of
wasn't
small,
intended that, no.
okay gifts, they can still add up to something that's unethical. If it's read as, no, this is actually being more permissive to the teachers, then I've got a problem with that, because then that would allow gifts that this board has been objecting to for the last couple of years now.
My brother is here visiting from Michigan right now. He came up to spend a month here, him and his wife. And he's retired school teacher, principal and everything. And he said he taught in Wisconsin, Michigan, in that area. And their policy was 0, except for classroom supplies and PTA grants. But they were not allowed to accept any gift from an individual.
I guess that expands the reach, because I only knew about Boston.
Right, so.
Oh, yeah, good, yeah, find out what counties he lives in. So, seriously, so we can document it, so
Yeah.
the more we can document
Yeah.
school boards
But,
that are doing this.
I don't have a bit of problem for school supplies, but I do have a problem with giving people money for doing their job. I over and above their wages and this sort of thing, I have a problem with that. But if it's giving them, supplies that they can do their job better, fine. I have no problem with that, because there's a lot of things the school district doesn't provide. But just to give someone cash money because, if they wanna buy a glass apple, for doing a good job or
Well,
something
then
like
that's
that.
like a plaque or memento,
Right,
coffee mugs and.
Yeah, something like that,
Yeah.
I got no problem, but cash money, I got
Best
a
teacher we
problem.
ever-
Well, and because one of the things that Julia said to me one time was, well, why can't you give the money through the PTA? Why do you have to give it directly?
Right.
And I guess, cause that gets into what Keith, Terry and I are talking about, because you have this relationship with a teacher, you want to thank them personally, but maybe.
And because the PTA has no requirement, the PTA, you don't know where that money goes.
Oh, no, I'm not really worried about that, but, is it maybe, we do need to do our gifts through the parent forum and not through.
That's kind of why we were trying to do the principal, but then the school district didn't want to do the principal.
Yeah.
Because then the principal can probably direct it a little better than the PTA.
But we do need to add in the two, or designated something, because I don't know if all schools have PTAs, parent forums, booster clubs.
Apparently they don't.
Or designated blank, I'll figure it out, or designated.
Well, just like
AXD
Winterberry
employee.
has a nonprofit board, and the decision that they made to handle all of those monies goes to the nonprofit board, and they give it out.
Okay, so I'm gonna say, or ASD designate. Okay, so we're back to number 1, I digress. So, people are thinking now maybe no direct cash gifts, if you wanna give except maybe supplies.
Yeah,
Eh,
school supplies,
Can we even
that's
accommodate
fine.
that? I mean, could you eliminate this and say something about, you could do, parents may contribute up to $50 per year
Through the
for
PTA.
school supplies, or it only has to go through. Well, I was
Yeah,
lowering it
okay.
because we don't allow.
Yeah, but I just feel uncomfortable. I think you gotta leave.
I have a 1:30 hearing, so.
Oh, well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you
Oh,
for
sure,
coming.
nice meeting you all, take care.
Appreciate your
Pleasure.
input.
I just, I don't think anybody ought to be given cash for doing that job.
Okay, but what do you think about me giving a teacher $50 and saying, hey, this is for supplies? I mean, I write right on the check, supplies. Isn't that really just giving them cash? Should I
It's
have to
still
go-
cash.
Okay, so
But
we're really
why
saying
don't
we have
you
to go through the PTA.
Ask the teacher. I wanna buy some supplies for your classroom.
What do you need?
She said, well, I need 7 tablets, 4 boxes of Kleenex, and he's fine, I'll go pick them up for you. You know, it just,
Yeah, right, or go to the principal, right?
huh?
Or go to the principal.
If
What,
you
what,
do-
what's the classroom needs? My kid's
Yeah.
in this class, and I'm,
Yeah,
I wanna make an
I
anonymous,
just-
I wanna make an anonymous
If you give-
donation.
If you give money to the PTA, can you direct it to a
Yes.
specific classroom?
Almost always, yes.
Yeah, so,
I think there's all sorts of anonymous ways in which it's
Okay.
about supplies, there's anonymous ways of
You know,
doing that. If
that's-
it's about gratitude, then you
Yeah.
want the personal thing, and look, my view is I do wanna
Mhm.
leave room for,
They-
I do want to leave room for
Mhm.
Give
the
a
cookies
personal handwritten
or-
card.
yeah, well, I think we have.
They
it
really
here
prefer them more.
With our.
Well, I mean, the cards and the notes, but I think, the homemade cookies
Right.
and things like
Anything
that, I
homemade.
wanna, I wanna leave some room for that, and again, I
Well,
don't
and
even, and
that's-
again,
that's in
again,
our,
I don't
that's our
even
list of
mind some.
guidelines too.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean,
would that fit in the perishable
Perishable item
given to
given
municipal
display
for
for
immediate
immediate consumption,
consumption, for a
display.
member of the public or
Mhm.
classroom
yeah,
expressing?
you can cook them whatever, all your fancy pies. But,
Well, there you go, yeah, you're right, that would be,
Or your exclusive cookies.
So,
but again, that makes me wonder if we need a separate teacher section.
I agree,
You
I
know?
agree with you.
I think we might be able to have just sort of like one
Yeah.
policy.
Yeah.
And it covers
Right.
everyone.
I know.
Well, but I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say, I really like this intro here, in recognition of the special relationship, it doesn't say special, but the relationship between students, parents, teachers, staff, generosity of teachers, I like that language, because we are recognizing the special relationship between the parents, students, and teachers. On the other hand, I don't think we should have a whole section just so I can have that language in there.
Yeah, maybe we could put that in two and have that be a preamble.
Right.
To something, that one of the categories
Exactly.
of
Yeah,
gifts
that's
that we're
an
saying
idea.
as general
Well-
advice, that,
Mhm.
given the special relationship with teachers,
Right.
the kind of like, and then, perishable gifts for
Right.
the holidays, this,
Right,
and
right,
then
right.
Well,
kind of.
the paragraph 2, we still want, right, the double I for double I. So maybe we just tie
Yes, and
that
then eliminate
to
the
the
$100.
4, yeah.
Yeah.
Why even have $100 in there?
Yeah,
Basically,
yeah, just-
except as some from the PTA or parent
Right.
forum or
That's right.
if we wanna
Forget
put
about
Mr.
that.
Cook.
And
Eliminate
then,
the $100.
and then, but from the $100 restriction from A1, I would like to keep, but I'd like to move that just into the general section and just and just say somewhere along the lines, no one should receive more than $100 from any one person during the year, or 150 if you think it should be 150. But
So you think
in
the
other words-
$99 check on the end of the school year is okay?
No, I mean, so
No.
this is the cumulative argument.
Right, right.
So, so let's say, it's a perishable thing, so I give you perishable thing after perishable thing after
Right.
perishable thing. At a certain point, even a bunch of small stuff adds up to a lot of influence. And so it does make sense to say, at some point, even gifts that are more or less consistent with this, the total number of them really should max out at a certain point. It really
Right,
should
and
be a
we've
point
already
where-
said that $50 or more has to be disclosed, right?
Well, but it's forbidden, right? Over $50 for any one
So
gift.
if they give a $99 gift,
That's out, but I'm worried about, so it's a small, it's the $10 coffee card. It's the cup of coffee that you buy day after day after day after day.
these things are,
So do we eliminate B then,
lawmaking is so
4B?
messy.
Gifts under $50?
Yeah, we would eliminate it, I think.
Wait, no, 4B. Except as provided in section 2, so that would be section 3, but section A4, or 4A. Sum of money or item of value in excess of $400 may not be accepted by an employee.
Well, that does make the cumulative intent clear, right, Keith?
Yeah, and D, I wonder if, because 3 is now gonna become 2, right? And so
Right.
we're
Yeah.
articulating this principle. So I wonder if B should actually be part of the preamble of what is now section 2. Generally, gifts under $50
Oh, I
are
see
going
what
to
you're
be
saying.
consistent, and then have some language. For instance, the following is a series of examples of the kinds of things, and then kind of like list through here, because then I have no problem with the list one too. If you're saying birthdays, weddings, and generally if it's under $50 and you're giving something for a birthday or wedding, that's, vast majority of cases, that's gonna be just fine.
And then not have a teacher section.
then you don't need to have a teacher section, and if, and my
Other
suggestion would be to
than-
add a cumulative requirement, that
Well-
there is a point where you max out in terms of, I may be able to give you a gift that's consistent with the code, but how many can I give you during the year before at least the intent's been circumvented?
Yeah, well, what we wanted
No, I-
to put somewhere, is the fact that encourage these people that, for the PTA and booster clubs and, parent forums, these, to be able to give them $150 check for school supplies.
I don't think we have a problem with that.
No,
No,
we're gonna
we
move that
don't.
into the list, we're gonna move that into the list of the things that are usually
Okay,
more or
good,
less okay.
good. But, and, you know, if you look under here, under, A1 or whatever that is, you know, you're saying they can accept over $100, but then you're down in B, it says you can't accept anything over $100. So,
Says,
I'd really, I'd really like to keep a teacher section, I think,
Yeah,
so it jumps out at them what we're saying.
yeah.
And just have the nice little preamble, and then, A2, that they can accept money from the PTAs. So I would, I think we need something to jump out.
But by
at the
separating
teachers.
it, are you potentially creating, well, we're creating two classes of people, another
Yeah.
class of people.
Yeah.
well,
Yeah,
Which
I
then
know,
could
but-
potentially cause some problems between one group of employees and another, you know.
Yeah.
But, I mean, but there we might have found a real true uniqueness though, because
That's
the
right.
relationship
The
between PTAs to
PTAs.
teachers,
That's
I
right.
can't think of any other
No, that's
municipal
right.
employee that would have a
Right.
relationship to like
Right.
sort of like a nonprofit
It
support
also-
entity. Like
Yeah.
even an employee's relationship to their union, I don't think is quite
Yeah.
like that.
Right.
So I think,
No,
I think
I
but that
think
may
that's
be
right.
the unique, I think, yeah, and I would have no problem keeping it separate for that,
Right.
because there, it strikes me that there is a unique
You really,
feature that we're
Well,
addressing.
it's an incentive for them to participate in
I
all
agree.
this.
I
Let's say
agree.
to- Let's say
Yeah.
something nice to them.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
Yeah, no, that sounds good to me. So did you get all this stuff? You're gonna rewrite it?
It's all
I
kinda
have-
confusing.
After you, I have one basic confusion though.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just-
well, if we go there, additional rules for ASD employee, and I like that paragraph right under that.
Yeah.
But then go down to A, and the only thing having A is the number 2.
Number two,
ASD
yeah.
employees
Right.
may accept a sum of money or item of value from PTA, forum group,
Mhm.
booster club, or community group, and no disclosure is required to the
Right,
ethics board.
right.
And
I think that's right.
scratch everything
Yeah,
else.
Yeah.
I agree.
Mike?
I think that makes sense to me.
Yeah,
Is that okay?
cause
Yeah.
that's what we had in mind
That's right.
to
That's
do
right.
when we started all this.
That's right.
So that would, and that's it.
I agree.
Okay.
I think that's a reasonable compromise on everything,
Okay.
I think.
You know,
And it also emphasizes the point we had starting out with this entire project, right?
That's-
The whole
that-
reason we got into this
Got into this.
was to carve out an exception for teachers.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
All right, I sign off. And I do have one item I'd like to discuss, if it has a potential modification to the board of, to our regulation here, or ordinance.
To this one, or another one?
Well, the whole
Can-
ordinance, if we're
But
making
Can I-
a change.
I had one
Yeah, Dee
basic
said she had
confusion,
one, yeah.
okay, the one basic confusion is, I still don't know what we're doing with gifts over, gifts, even $40 gift.
Right, are we-
That doesn't fall within one
Right.
of these. What happens, is it,
Does it eliminate the ability for a teacher to provide cash?
no, not teachers, back
I
to
mean, sorry,
regular,
I'm
regular
sorry, the
employees.
parents.
Are we
Oh.
saying it has to fall, it's like this, yeah, there's an overarching bad behavior
Mm.
prohibition. And then these are other examples.
Mhm.
Okay, so can an employee accept a gift for $40?
Right.
Provided that timing and the circumstances are such that a reasonable person
Okay,
would not come.
and I,
So that's the way I
was
think of it.
coming
I think-
from the other direction, that no, they
Right.
can't. I guess that's what we
Right.
started out of the meeting,
And
no,
that's-
they
You
can't.
know, that's a good point, meaning, right now, what that's saying, that's right. So, right now, a municipal employee can accept a whole wide range of small gifts.
Right.
Under what
People
we're
are just
talking
trying to
about.
force you, I realize you have a
Yeah.
similar, they're
Well,
trying to
that's
force
right.
you to take stuff out.
I mean, do we wanna?
Except, you know, for, and instead, you know, like I say, I have a problem with giving people cash money for
Right.
doing their job.
So,
And I had a C here initially.
Yeah.
And it was, except as set forth in section, usually, it
Yeah.
started out as gifts over 50, but it could just be
Right.
other gifts. Except as set forth in the laundry list employees shall not accept gifts
Yes.
unless disclosed and pre-approved by the ethics board and municipal ethics officer.
And I think that's what we had in mind.
That's what we had in mind.
Okay, so to
Yeah.
leave that C in there.
I think so, what do you
Yeah.
think? Cause that actually was the intent, I think, when we eliminated the.
C, gifts over $50.
And-
Well, and that, yeah, and I like that, I mean, like, so
Yes.
in other words, so here's the.
That's right.
Here's my vision, and just take it for what it's worth, right? We
Yep.
define what a gift is.
Yes.
Then we give the principle. The principle is basically
General-
the law, right? And
yeah.
then
Right.
basically is this reasonable person standard. You shouldn't
Right.
be saying, okay. The next section then says, as guidance,
Yes.
here are some, but it's not exhaustive, of the kinds of examples that this board's thinking you're more or less on firm ground.
Safe
Okay.
harbor.
As another piece of advice, anything over 50 is gonna be viewed with a lot of suspicion.
Well, I wasn't
So
even-
much
No,
so
we-
that
no.
it should be
We actually were gonna say
pre-disclosed.
Zero.
Zero. Any other gifts?
Oh, and, but that's not what C says though, and I'm
No, it's
I'm
not.
okay with
Her
that.
C.
Oh.
You
Her
have
C,
that.
her C.
Oh,
She
yeah, so
had
your
C.
C says nothing over
Nothing.
$50, and I'm,
No,
see, I'm with
nothing.
that. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't mind,
nothing.
I don't,
Yes.
you know, I don't mind pre-disclosure
Yeah.
either, cause it's such a, you know, I think that would deter almost all gifts over $50,
Right.
have to pre-disclose it and come to a Board of Ethics meeting.
Right.
But I don't mind just capping on, so in other words,
No,
any
we're-
gift that we're talking about is gonna be, that could be ethical,
Yes.
is under 50.
No, we didn't even put 50.
No.
No,
gifts.
no
Zip.
gifts.
So would you read it out?
Oh, your C says,
Yes.
oh, I see, your C
No,
says.
just
Yeah.
take out money altogether. yeah.
You can't be
Take out
getting
money.
cash gifts.
Yeah.
To your tax appraiser,
Yeah.
or whatever.
So what?
Okay, but remember, but that works, but then two is not, what is now two, is not just a helpful illustration. Two
Is safe harbors.
is the exception, and then we have to go back to exception talk. Cause you're saying if it's not listed in two,
If you wanna
then you
give-
can't receive it.
What it should
Unless
say
you go to the
is,
ethics
if you wanna give something to your classroom there, this is how you do it. You don't go in and say, here's $50. This is how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
I tell you what,
Okay, so I think I could live with, I think I'm okay with that, but that's really different from what we've been
Mhm.
talking about most of the meetings. So two would not just be sort of like a handy little rule of thumb that you could, it would be, no, two is, what's now two, in essence, articulates what the principle, the reasonable person principle means. And to some degree, will rarely actually apply that reasonable person principle. Mostly what we'll be doing is going through the list
Wow.
on two. Did you fall into one of these? If you didn't pre-disclose and get our approval, did you fall on one of these lists? And if you didn't, then you violated the code.
I don't
That
like-
is much more restrictive, I
Because I
think,
don't-
online.
I
And I'm
don't
okay, I think I'm
It's
okay with
plain.
that, yeah.
It's plain and.
I tell you what,
The
you
main
draft
problem-
this,
Yeah,
I need
I'll
to take
make
another
it.
look at
Yeah,
it.
it's-
And I'll try to do that soon.
Cause I got pieces go back and forth
Yeah.
in my head, and I'm.
Okay.
Can I ask you, one of the other things that I get a lot of questions about is some person or group wants to donate money to this fire station because they did a great
Right.
job. How can they do that?
Right.
And, you know, right now, it's, who knows, so I was just, that's another
Right.
one I haven't addressed here, but I get that
Mm.
question all the time.
Well, you could get it approved.
Oh, okay, then just go to the ethics board.
Right.
Yeah, okay, fine.
Or.
I mean, isn't that what
an
the
ethics
definition is right now?
officer?
Huh?
Does it actually have to go to us, or can it go to an ethics officer?
Well, I mean, that's the thing we could
Because
put,
if a group of
Well,
people came to me and said, I wanna
well,
give
I'm
money
trying
to
to get
my
them to do some
local
work.
fire station,
Right.
I'd be like, go for it.
Yeah, exactly. So here, or pre-approved by the ethics or municipal ethics.
Unless I fear
Yeah.
that they're gonna get their house taken care of before mine.
You
Well,
got a damn
and
hydrant
again,
in front
I
of
mean,
your house.
but notice, I mean, and again, depending on the gift, right, if it's cookies
it's
or
dug
pies or
out,
something
right.
like
Yeah.
that, then it's it's a perishable
dug it out
gift of
last year, you
appreciation,
noticed?
that's gonna be
Well,
okay.
you know, fires
What's
save
that?
someone,
They dug
they
it out
wanted to
last
give them a
year.
TV or
Okay.
something, you know, that kind of stuff.
I got, I think hopefully
Okay.
this is a pretty easy one, I think we agreed, and we actually had a case on this one. Under, oh shoot, what's the blasted code? 1.15.025 I, political activity.
Under what?
1.15.025 I, so it's page 11 of 34.
Okay.
Under D, where we have the issue, authorize that money be held by the municipality should be, be used by, it's prohibited. They cannot, they shall not use this money, authorized money to be used by, to influence the outcome of an election. I would just flat put a period there and strike, except as permitted by state law. We had
Well,
lots of complaints, we had a case on it, and I
Right.
just don't, I personally, I just don't see.
Yeah, because
that-
we can be
I don't like
more
my tax
restrictive,
money.
but we can't be less
Right.
restrictive
I-
than,
You know, our tax
State.
money, we're paying for them to campaign to us. And we get into this, well, is it educational, is it not, and whatnot. And there's a lot of private groups that will advertise. And in this last teacher, the school board
Mhm.
situation, there was a private group that stepped up and advertised. And by all means, they should. But I
Well,
don't think.
1513-145, is that what allows the bonds? Is that the exception for the?
No, that's that one that,
If it's in their budget, and appropriated for that
If it's
purpose.
a line item in the
if
appropriations.
line items appropriated specifically for advertising.
For influencing election.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it mentions bonds or not, but it's
Right.
not. And the next section is really the bond section.
But
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, and that also has the subject to restrictions.
Right.
So I guess, well, I mean, we could stop at D and eliminate E. I haven't read E, but I knew this, the one thing is except as permitted. This has caused, a lot of heartburn. I've had some people ask me about it.
Well, except the subject to restrictions, and so you'd eliminate an E also?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
1513-145, eliminate the reference to the statute?
Yeah, in fact, Keith, our past cases, it was an E that it wound up being decisive.
Right, but I don't even wanna allow it if it's in their budget.
No, that's right, no, I think,
Yeah.
so it's gotta come out in both D and E.
But
the
that's
subject to
something I'd
restrictions.
like to run by the assembly. If the assembly
Okay.
says no, then okay,
Sure.
we've gone through,
Okay.
we've done this, we've asked them.
Yeah, because,
But
this
that
is
was the
gonna come out
situation with the mayor's
shortly, yeah.
situation, and,
I need to think about that.
Yeah, that's a,
okay,
that's
well,
a
just
big
think
difference.
about it, but I'd like, and with the other situation that we ran into, and, of course, this has been something that's been in my craw for
Yeah, right?
as long as, the last 30 years.
Yeah.
That's, yeah, I understand. I need to
Chew on that.
Chew on that. I've got a client meeting I gotta get
Yeah,
back to.
okay.
Can we wrap this up today and then we
Yeah.
can?
Are we gonna meet next Wednesday? We need to finish that road service board issue. We gotta get.
Well,
this
I'm
out.
not, I'm open, but you guys have to check with everybody else here.
We have to set a meeting for the board to meet with, the Ethics and Elections Committee prior to the joint meeting on September 20th.
For this issue?
Yeah.
Yes, for this particular issue. Adam Trombley has proposed 2 times, Tuesday, September 3rd at 11:30,
Tuesday.
day after Labor Day,
Tuesday morning.
or Wednesday, September 4th in the morning, 9:30 to 10:30. But we need a quorum to be able to conduct business with them.
Oh, did you say Tuesday, September 3rd in the afternoon?
Yes,
I thought it was
Tuesday,
11:30.
September 3rd at 11:30.
11:30.
I could do that.
11:30.
I thought I was busy. I'm okay.
Or Wednesday
How
in
about
the
you,
morning.
Wednesday in the morning?
I can't do Tuesday. And then what was the
Okay.
Wednesday?
Wednesday was 9:30 in the morning.
Yeah, I can't do that.
I could.
Could you do Tuesday if, you can't do Tuesday at all? If
I can do Tuesday.
Could you
I've
do it
got-
telephonically?
I've got class, Tuesday, let me think of this, Tuesday class is 11:30 to 12:45, and then I've got
Okay.
another class at 2:30, so
Oh,
between
so you're-
12:45 and 2:30.
So you're eliminated Tuesday altogether.
Right.
But you're preparing.
I'm free in the middle, I'm free
Yeah.
from 11:30, from 12:45 to 2:30, I'm free. And I could, and I could do telephonically, or I could do before 10.
Yeah, I'm not available. I got court all morning.
No,
On
I
Tuesday?
can do up to
Tuesday.
11:30, I can do up to
On
11:30.
Tuesday?
And this is federal stuff. I can't, yeah.
On
I'm-
Tuesday?
I'm completely blocked out in the morning on
Okay,
Tuesday.
I'm good Wednesday morning.
But I'm good all afternoon on Tuesday and Wednesday, no, I got court in the afternoon on, these are federal stuff. These aren't things
Okay,
I
but
can
so
do.
how about
Wednesday
9:30 and
morning.
10:30 Wednesday morning?
I can do that.
9:30, wasn't it?
9:30 to
Yeah.
10:30.
9:30 Wednesday morning, I can do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Keith?
And then.
And
You do
I have
10?
class Wednesday morning at 10, so if I can phone in, I can join you guys. I can
Okay.
come in a little late for class, but I can join you guys for maybe like 35
But
minutes
actually,
or
this is
so.
the
Just
work
write a note
meeting.
on the
Do we
board,
really
let them
need a
work on
quorum for
something
that?
a while.
Hey, it's ethics, I should
What
just
I
have them there,
understand,
right?
we
Come on,
will
everyone,
have
come
a
listen.
Yeah,
The
really.
Board of Ethics
Well, we
actually
would-
works.
We would have a quorum, 3 of us can make it, we know of them, we're not sure of them.
Can you do it, Keith? Yeah, so you
I
got
can do
3
it.
people no matter
Yeah,
what.
Yeah.
send me an appointment, though.
Did you say,
Well,
I'm
we've
sorry,
got
what's the-
David, and we've got telephonically, we've got Terry, and then we've got
Ted
Ted
and Keith.
and
Did you say
Keith.
9?
9:30 to 10:30.
9:30 to 10:30?
9:30 to 10:30 on September the 4th.
Yeah,
Okay.
as long as you bring a birthday cake.
Send me a.
Get out of my
So
staff
Ted's telling us it's his birthday that day.
And we're meeting here?
Here, yes.
Okay.
And the other appointment I just wanna let you guys know about is the joint school board meeting, Assembly School Board meeting on September 20th. So this will be an item on that agenda, so if whoever can show up at that would be.
Is that a combination?
I'm sorry, Lisa, what
assembly
day
and
was that?
School board or just
For the school board meeting, that's, I'm gonna make sure, September the 20th, which is a Friday, and it's going to be here at City Hall in the mayor's conference room.
Okay, and
8:30.
what time was that?
That's at 10 a.m.
10 a.m. Okay, I can do that.
And Lisa, when is our next meeting? I know you-
18.
Well, that's on our
Okay.
agenda. I added that to the agenda because we didn't make a decision whether this Wednesday
Does that work for you?
at 12 o'clock was gonna work going forward.
Is your schedule gonna work forward?
For Friday, the Friday?
No,
Third
Wednesday the
Wednesday.
18th.
Wednesday
We don't
the
know about your
18th.
schedule, that's the reason.
No, at this time though?
Mhm.
12 to 2?
Yes.
Yeah, works great, yep. Like Wednesday's actually pretty clear. I teach from 10 to 11:15, and then Wednesdays are
When is
usually
the
open
next
after
meeting
that.
for the
Wait a
ethics?
minute.
The regular meeting
Well,
is the
we had
18th.
discussion
Is that
on
what you're taking them
continuing
now?
the third Wednesday of each month from 12 to 2.
Oh.
And we had set down the dates of, September 18th, October 16th, November 20th, and December 18th, which are all third Wednesdays.
Yep.
Good.
Can we make a motion to calendar that for the rest of the year?
So
Yes.
moved.
Yes.
Definitely.
So this is, so October.
It's moved and seconded.
October 16th?
And
Yep.
approved.
Uh-huh.
And November 20th?
20th.
Yep, and December 18th? Yes, I
Yes.
got it, I'm good.
Okay, and so we've got, a mover and a seconder.
And it's been approved.
Okay,
So, oh, by the way, here's your paperclip back, and we'll discuss that other issue another time, and then we're.
November 20th, right, was that?
Yes, at 10?
Current meeting packet.
No, noon.
okay, and we have.
Noon, right?
And then
September
D-
20th is at 10 a.m.
Prior
right?
to September 3rd.
What?
Oh, yeah, September
No, you're
20th is
gonna-
at 10 a.m.
Yes.
But that's
Right,
our
right.
meeting with the
I'm
school
gonna-
board.
I'm
right?
gonna
Yes.
speculate it.
I was asking about November. The November meeting's gonna be on the 20th then, right? It's the
Yeah.
third Wednesday.
The regular ethics board meeting
Yes,
is at
noon
12.
to 2.
Well, Dee, thank you for your hard work.
Yeah.
And all that, we've got the meeting schedule.
Only to have us make a rat's nest of it, so.
Yeah, well, that's why I said this, making ordinances and laws is just, it's messy stuff.
Okay.
Oh, you were going to
I don't
have a
have
letter
it.
to review, but you don't have it, so I'll put it on the next agenda. Okay.
It's been, someday I'll explain to you what I've been doing for the last 3 or 4 months. Any member comments? None? Do we hear a motion for adjournment? Motion adjourned.
Move to adjourn. But I would like to, maybe at the next, our next regular meeting to deal with that.
When are we gonna
road
deal with
showings
this
board
again?
issue.
Which one is?
I think we are, is that on the
No,
agenda?
Oh,
Oh,
rewrites.
The rewrites.
I'm gonna, this one, I'm gonna try to do it right away, like
Yeah.
the next day or so, and just circulate it.
Yeah,
people give
okay.
comments.
Push it out.
Okay.
Because
All right.
otherwise it's next
Yeah.
Wednesday, we've actually, it should be getting it to them by like Tuesday or
Okay.
something, so they have it to look at.
Okay.
Okay, and so we're meeting next Wednesday, right? 9:30, is that our
Next Wednesday at
meeting?
9:30? Yes.
So
Okay.
everybody, I'm gonna
Yeah.
circulate to you, just give
Yep.
your comments back.
Okay, sounds good, thank you, Dee.
And that's
Thank you.
upstairs in the mayor's.
No, that will be here,
Okay, here, all right. Oh, that's with Adam Trombley and
yes.
whoever else decides to
His
show.
committee members.
And you're gonna handle public notice?
Yes,
Somebody will.
I will, no, I do and I will.